Welcome back, everybody. Today we have Kevin with us. Kevin, I know you're in the airport. Where are you usually located?
Man, 90% of the time I'm out in California working. I'm just outside of Lodi, which is kind of south of Sacramento. But the rest of my time spent down here in Texas.
Yeah. So you do a lot of traveling back and forth?
Yeah, I travel. My house is here in Texas, where my son stays at. So I'll work for 4 or 5 weeks, come home for a weekend, work for 6 weeks, come home for a week. Just kind of varies on what he's got going on and what the schedules look like at work.
Nice. So what what is the definition of what you do? Like what is your trade exactly called?
And I guess I'm classified in the trade as a journeyman lineman. Work on power lines. We're working through IBEW, which is the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. So wires go down, we fix it. Lights go out, we turn them on.
Yes, but you also ride on helicopters, which most linemen don't ride on helicopters. So I didn't know
Right.
exactly what do you call that.
We're basically classified as helicopter linemen at that point. You go through the training, you get all your certifications, and we do certifications just like every other trade. You got to keep them updated every year. So just make sure that we fly a lot more than a lot of people, so ours are updated constantly. But they have different. You've got like an H1, which would be basically somebody that can just go ground to ground, all the way up to H4, which would be a bare hand helicopter lineman. So you could basically
I
hang on a long line in your Faraday suit and work on 500 kV energized.
I've seen you guys work. So when I was working in the mines, we had power lines right beside us,
Oh
big
yeah,
power lines, and to watch you guys do what you do was absolutely terrifying and incredible all at the same time because to watch that pilot, which I've seen them a couple of times in some really high winds, and that
oh yeah.
helicopter does not move. That guy keeps it perfect as the guys are working, and it's incredible to watch.
They either drink nothing but energy drinks or drink zero energy drinks. I don't know which one it is yet because they got to be crazy to do what they do, and they keep us safe up there. And I've got a good working relationship with a lot of pilots. We're on first name and text basis, and those guys have a skill set that I couldn't even imagine, for
It,
sure.
it's yeah, it's nuts to watch. I was like, this is crazy,
Yeah, for sure. We've
but
we do some of the wilder stuff is like working from air chairs over freeways and stuff like that. And it's just you kind of look down and at a certain point you're like, well, this is my job. This is what I'm doing.
it's wild. It's
It's different for sure. Yeah.
I like the one where you had a video on your TikTok that said, "Why do I wear a cowboy hat? It's because I do cowboy shit." And
Yeah.
that second video, I was like, "Oh yeah, that's ridiculous."
Yeah. Everybody, a lot of the newer guys in the trade, they give cowboy shit a bad name just because it's associated with taking all these risks and doing all this other stuff. But from the old school, cowboy shit is, I mean, you're going out there doing just something that is not normal or supposed to be physically possible, but
Yeah,
we're still going to get it done somehow.
yeah, that's awesome. How long you been doing that?
Man, I've been in the trade for going on 16 years now. I started out in back in the 2000s in Texas working for the local utility in Houston, and I worked there for almost 10 years straight. Or I think it was actually 10 years was right when I kind of decided, hey man, I want to do something different. I want to take my skills somewhere and learn a little different aspect of it because every state and every property, they do things a little different. And I was just to that point where I saw the wall from where I was at, and I was like, okay, well, this is going to be a retirement home if I decide to stay here. But I'm young enough. I'm in my 30s. I want to go have some fun. I want to go see some cool stuff. And I knew California had a very diverse system from where we were. Our system was pretty cookie cutter. You saw one thing one day, you're going to see it the next.
Yeah,
Where in California, one day I could be on an airboat in the middle of a bay fixing a tower, or I could be in the snow climbing through 100 yards worth of snow and storm, picking up wire. Like it's something different every day, which is kind of
that's nice.
cool. it keeps
Yeah.
it it keeps it cool.
Yeah, it breaks it up. It gives you, yeah, so you don't get bored.
Yeah.
You get to see new
No.
things, you know?
Yeah, and I've said for 15 years, complacency kills. If you get complacent, that's that's when mistakes start to happen. That's when you just start thinking it's a mundane task and you quit worrying about it. That's what kills you.
Yeah, I preach that a lot. To be always aware of what's happening around you. Like you
For
said, you
sure.
get comfortable and it's just like, you're in that groove, you get stuck in it and it's the same
Yeah.
thing every day. And then you kind of start forgetting about safety and yeah, you get yourself
Yeah.
killed quick or somebody
When
else killed.
Oh yeah, when I was with the utility, I did some stints off and on guest training for their skills department, which is where the apprentices come in and kind of learn their skill set before taking it to the actual real world environment. And I mean, we had mock power poles, mock systems everywhere in the yard, and I would always preach to them, hey, one of the biggest things that you can take from this is situational awareness. Like, know what you're working on, understand it, figure out why it's working the way it works, and if it doesn't work, figure out how you can go back to put it to work. So I dug in on the situational awareness, and a lot of the younger kids just it wasn't something that they were very keen on. They had to work on being
Yeah.
aware of what's around you, especially in our industry.
Yeah, there's a lot happening. In these blue collar industries, there's so many things going on at once. Like my
Oh,
biggest
for
thing is
sure.
that you can't be 100% safe. It's not real. It doesn't exist. You can be a certain percentage, but there's always that small percentage that a freak accident could happen. Stuff breaks that is out of your control.
Yeah.
That's why you have to be aware of what is happening
You
around
know,
you
I think that's yeah, and that's exactly right.
every moment.
I think that's why they've placed a lot
Uh-oh.
of a lot of stuff on basically like the safe. If you're going to fail safe. Like make sure you got some extra rigging up there, so if something does break, it's not going to hit the ground. It
Yeah.
might take you for a little ride, but you're 100% tied off these days. When I started in hooks and a leather belt with no sort of fall protection. I had a little leather safety strap I could put around the pole and put it on when I want to. We could free climb back in the day. I would free climb 110, 120 foot towers with just a belt on my back all day long. When it
Out
was
of your
time,
mind.
yeah, when it was time for lunch, you left your belt up there and you climbed down because you were free climbing. I mean, it
That's
was a
crazy.
different era, and just like every other safety book, I know in the mining industry it's the same, in the oil industry it's the same.
Yep.
All your safety books, they were written in blood. The
Yeah.
rules were created because somebody died from not following something, or somebody died from doing something, and that's literally where they write safety books from.
Yeah. That's 100% true. Like, yeah.
Luckily, my
You
face
use an
my face
example.
hasn't made it in there, so I'm still outside of the safety book, which is nice.
I don't know if I'm in the safety book, but I have people reach out to me that say I'm in their safety meetings.
And it's funny you say that because back in 22, I went through a pretty decent wreck in my off time. Just doing what I wanted to on my days off, and I ended up with a traumatic brain injury, and they had to flap open my whole skull, and I went through a lot of surgeries for it. But I made it into a bunch of safety meetings for basically telling people, hey man, what you do on your day off is your day off. That's fine. Just know that every one of your choices can affect your entire career. Because
Absolutely.
they didn't know that I was going to make it out of the what do they call that, the ectocranial surgery or whatever I was in. They didn't know if I was going to make it out of ICU. I mean, I was, I guess, technically dead for almost 2 days. So,
Jesus, man.
and I mean, it was a little road to get back up. I kept telling the doctor, I think 7 or 8 days in, that I'm fine. I can walk around. I can do whatever. And he was like, well, you're hard headed, but if you think you can, go ahead. I'll stand right here. And I couldn't walk. I found out real quick I wasn't ready to walk. So
Did they remove a piece of your skull and then
my
put it
skull,
back?
my skull itself stayed intact. I've got a big C-shaped
Yeah.
scar all the way across. They had to put 2 relief ports in to. They said the swelling is basically what did it for me. So they had to
Yeah.
start popping holes in my skull. But No, it was a freak accident. Got off of work. Me and two or three of my journeymen were riding around on those little one wheels, and then as guys do, we get competitive on it. So we were probably doing 23, 24 miles an hour, and the board I was on, just the ECU completely shut down on it, and it nosedived me. And when it did that, I was probably 6 to 8 foot in the air, and then I kind of flipped around, landed on my tailbone and my hip, and then my entire body just scorpion back,
Yeah.
nailing me down. So
God.
I guess from what they told me, I popped right up. I was like, "Oh no, I'm fine." And they're like, "Well, the amount of blood coming out of your ear and your head say you're not fine." And then I passed out, and I don't remember much.
Isn't that crazy? That
Dude, just I mean,
just
talk about
doing
something we
that.
do every day. Yeah,
Isn't that crazy? Like you go out to enjoy yourself, and that's how you get hurt. You're climbing these towers, hanging out of helicopters.
yeah, it's always dumb
Crazy.
stuff for sure.
Yeah, that's it happens.
But yeah, I mean, and that's I kind of preach it a lot of the kids that are, oh, I want to go out and do this, I want to go out and do that. I'm like, man, just watch what you do. Your career is your moneymaker. That's how you afford to keep your family alive, and that's how you keep yourself food on the table. So it's kind
Yeah.
of everything comes full circle, and you really don't look at it like that. And I didn't either. I would get off work and I'd go snowboard, I'd ride motorcycles, do any kind of not extreme sport, but any kind of recreational activity I wanted to do. And then I get taken out by a kid's toy, pretty much.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, this is great. It taught me a lot though, man. I was out of work for 3 months, and I've never had time off of work. Like, I live at work, I breathe work. I love
Yeah.
everything about the job I do because I eat it up. I love it. And then with that much time off, man, I was like idle hands. I didn't know what to do with myself. So I was just
Going
itching to get
crazy.
back, telling the doctor, hey, release me, release me, release me. And like the day he did, I think I packed all my stuff. I was like, all right, well, I'm going back to work. So it's been a pretty intense road to recovery, but we're here. We're still making it.
It's awesome, dude. Yeah, I started doing public speaking for safety, really to show the impact of being hurt at work, what it comes with afterwards. Because you see, like you said, the safety books written on people have been hurt, killed on the
Mm-hmm.
job. You hear about it at safety meetings, but you don't hear about what the recovery is like and the impact it takes on you and your family.
Oh, for sure. And that was
So
one thing I never looked at was I didn't, obviously I didn't have time to look at it, or I just failed to look at it. I would still FaceTime my son every day. He's 9 years old, and already wants to be a lineman and wants to be just like dad. So I'd FaceTime him every day, tell him what we worked on, tell him all this stuff. But then when it comes time to do something like, oh, I'm gonna go hang out with my buddies and get on these one wheels just so I can stay fresh on my skills for snowboarding, I don't think about, man, if I get in a wreck, what's that do to my kid?
yeah,
So now my kid was 2,200 miles away from dad, and his mom has to say, hey, your dad got in a wreck. He's in a hospital. And at 9 or 8 years old, 7 year old, whatever it was back then, you can't comprehend that. Like, well,
nope.
what do you mean he's in the hospital? What do you mean he's hurt? They don't understand that because of the choices I made, this might permanently affect his life. And looking at it like that, you want to talk about scaring the shit out of somebody.
Yeah.
Stop for a second when you're doing something, or if you want to do something, and think about the repercussions of if something happens to you, which everybody, oh, it'll never happen to me. It's not if, it's when. And that's through every aspect of life. It's not if, it's when. It's going to catch up to you. You're going to
So
have a bad day somewhere.
my daughter was 9 when this happened to me, and my son was just turned a year old. So he only knows scars and everything. It really did affect her big time. It took a toll.
Yeah.
But I actually had trying to think if it was I want to say it was somebody in safety in a construction company. They reached out to me on social media, and they told me that what they do, which was the most incredible idea I've heard for safety wise, instead of giving, say if they caught you doing something unsafe, instead of giving you writing you up, they'd tell you, okay, I want you to go home and I want you to have a family member write a letter as in if you were dead
Mm.
and then bring it back. And then they bring it back and they put that in where they would write you up. So then you have to physically read what your family member wrote about you if you were gone.
Yeah, that's
That
that's
hits.
tough.
That one hits you.
Yeah, we had adopted that a while back, semi. Basically, when I was doing my skills training with a lot of the apprentices, they had a buzzer system. It's just on a little 12-volt battery or whatever. But if you ended up going phase to ground with any of your tasks or any of your steps, you would just hear the loud buzzer. And if you heard that buzzer, you knew you were dead.
Yeah.
So you didn't want to hear the buzzer. And I
No.
still remember I heard the buzzer one day. We all look over, and this kid ended up not having something covered up properly and going face to ground. And his entire four-man crew, all four of them, had to write letters to his girlfriend at the time to explain why he wasn't coming home at night. And these are still, I call them kids. They're still grown men. They're still in their 20s. They're still learning their trade. They're learning their
Green.
craft. So they're learning. But I've never seen four different 20-something-year-old kids break down in tears reading a letter to their class, not even reading it to anybody else, just their class, on how they messed up and why their buddy isn't going to go home to his girlfriend. And it really, I think that hit home for the entire class, having to hear that exercise, because it's like, shit, that can happen. This is a real life scenario. If we would have been in the field, this would be something that we're going to have to go knock on the door. And nobody wants to
Absolutely.
do that.
No. That's what I try to tell people, that even me, I thought that this is something that would never happen to me. I wasn't a lineman, I was an electrician. Yeah, we dealt with high voltage, but I didn't deal with it a lot.
Yeah.
You can't think in your head that this is something that'll never happen because, like you said, you don't know. It can happen. There is a possibility.
For sure.
You just
And I
gotta
think
be
that's kind of, you just got to realize nobody's Superman. Like, you can't
no,
survive everything, you can't do everything. And growing up, when I was younger, I got really good at the specific task that we did a whole lot. I mean, I got cocky about it. I got an ego on it. And looking back, 10 years, I'm like, man, what an idiot. Like, I sat here and thought that I was God's gift to dead end and wire or whatever. And man, there was a lot more to it that I didn't look at. So growing up, looking back, I kind of feel foolish. I mean, I'm glad that I had the experience. I'm glad that I learned a lot of the stuff I did. I probably could have gone about it differently, just on a personal level, though. Instead of sitting here being cocky and running my mouth, I could have taught somebody else why I'm doing it like I'm doing it, or how to do it a little better than they were doing it.
yeah, but
And
now you
I
can do
didn't do
that.
it. Oh yeah,
You
yeah,
you have the ability now to look at what you did to now and look at from your mistakes, you're able to teach somebody else. So that definitely helps.
it's definitely a good teaching point and a good learning lesson for guys that I'll take out on the ladders and boards with me that haven't done a lot of it. I'll
Yeah.
say, hey, here's why we're doing this. Here's why you rig it this way. Here's why you hang this over here. Like every step that you take costs time. So you try to do it in the most efficient way with the
Yeah.
least amount of steps to where you're not under the bird. Because they always preach about, you know, it's it's almost like a time clock. If you're out there under the bird, the amount of time you're under it, again, it's not if, it's when. So the longer you're under it, the more time you have for something to go wrong. So don't sit there and dilly dally and do this. And kind of hypocritical because I'm sitting there taking videos while I'm flying under it and all that. But we get bored. We're just going to and from the job, and we'll make sure that 100%. Like on one of my videos, you'll even see me, and I kind of look over at my buddy next to me, and I check his harness, I check his clasp, I make sure all of his stuff's buckled in, and then the video cuts out, but he does the same. We do it every time.
Yeah, you should. You should look out for in all reality, that's your family because you see each other more than you see your actual family.
Oh, I
Hands
promise.
down.
10, 12, 20 hours a day, I'm with the
Yep.
same five guys, so they're definitely family. We have meals together, see each other first thing in the morning, see each other last thing at night. It's a pack mentality. And I feel like it makes the daily job a whole lot safer when the guy you're working with is somebody that you're responsible for. You care for. You have to answer if something happens. So you just got to kind of keep that in mind that their family depends on you as much as your family
Yeah,
depends on them.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So you are married, right? You said
Nope.
you're married? No.
Nope.
Nope.
Not married. Not married. I got divorced in 22. Me and her are still best friends, which is
Oh, that's
cool. Co-parenting like that
yep.
has it's been a blessing. Like I've got a lot of divorce buddies that they'll sit there and throw rocks at their ex-wife, and I'm like, hey man, it's still the mom of your kid.
That's right.
She's she's been a help for sure.
So when you guys were, does she even now? Does she understand how dangerous your job is?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. She watched me have to go to a couple funerals for buddies, and she understands the nature of the beast. Like you know, you might get that call in the middle of the night if we're out working storm, and if you do, it's not going to be a call just to say, "Hey, how you doing?" It's
Yeah.
going to be a call to say, "Hey, something happened."
Yeah.
And before I was in the electric field, I was in the oil field. I worked down South Texas, like right on the Mexico border,
Okay.
and it was the same type of deal. I mean, anything and everything could go wrong. We were drilling in a lot of the Eagle Ford shale, which had a very very high gas content, so flares would go off pretty actively. And hearing a flare is like something I've never heard in my life. It sounds like a jet engine, airplane, and a train all at once. Like
Oh
it's
wow.
just an ungodly the amount of pressure that's coming up out of the ground, and that's where the blowouts and all that stuff comes from. If it's got to come out of the flare, they're basically closing the stacks, so all that gas can't come up through the rig floor and blow the rig floor into a bunch of pieces.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I don't know if you remember that the BP movie years back, and that was one of the issues there is their blowout preventers failed. So that's why they had the rig fire. That's why
The
I think it
offshore
was,
rig,
yeah, yeah,
the New Horizon, well, not New Horizon, something Horizon, right?
Deep Horizon, I think.
Deep Horizon. That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And when all that stuff started happening, I'm not sure what year it was. I think I had just gotten out of the oil field, or I was about to get out of the oil field, and I was like, damn, that's because I've been on multiple. I don't even know how many deep water rigs that are in the Gulf Coast, in between Florida and Texas, all the way across the Louisiana border. When drilling was good, I would do 21 days off, 21 days on, 7 days off.
Crazy.
So yeah, you're stuck out at water for 21 days, and all you can do is work. You work 12-hour shifts, and on your 12 hours off, you eat. So,
Yeah.
I mean, hey, we had some of the best fresh fish I've ever had.
I was gonna say, yeah. You
Dude, galley
send
heads would
down a
take
line. You're
whatever
good to
was left
go.
over from the night before, and they'd fish it down on some fishing line, and they'd catch fresh halibut, fresh anything and everything, yellowfin tuna. We ate good.
That's awesome.
So
Yeah, I was
yeah,
asking you if your child's mother, your ex-wife, if she knew how dangerous your job was, because me and my wife were talking about it, and she said that she wondered how many wives or partners actually knew the dangers that come with some of these jobs in the trade, because she knew what I did, being a minor, but she didn't realize how dangerous the jobs could be until she got that call. And then she didn't believe it at first. She thought it was a joke, and they recalled and said, "This isn't a joke." And then it really sunk in.
yeah. I don't, man. I don't think she understood half of the oil field stuff when I got into
Yeah.
the electric industry. Um, she knew about it. Like she knew that people get electrocuted all the time. It's, you see the news stories and all this. And again, it's just one of those, it won't ever happen to you mentalities. And I had to tell her,
Yep.
hey, you can't think like that. Like my phone would ring at 2:30 in the morning. Hey, we had a car hit a pole. We got to go out, replace wire. And half the time there's a pole sitting on the ground and the wire's still hot. So we're like, okay, stop for a second. Let's look at it. Let's figure out how to, you know, get everything grounded on each side. Let's get it safe for us, and then we'll go fix it. So that's why during storms, half the time you fight some of the struggles of getting equipment to stuff because it's probably in a spot that you don't want to be in.
Yeah.
The other half is you're fighting the people around you. How long is my power going to be out? Oh, my AC doesn't work. I'm like, listen, we understand. We know. I went through Hurricane Harvey, Hurricane Michael up there in Panama City, and you run into one of two types of people. You either run into the people that are just thankful and very gracious that you're there away from your family during a hurricane fixing power, or you go through the people that are just pissed off because they can't watch football that night. Like,
Yeah.
there's not a median. Some of the nicest people I've met were just outside. I don't even know what it was, a parish, I guess, like a little town, little city out in the middle of nowhere outside of Panama City. And they were in their driveway cooking on propane, and they were cooking like big crawfish sized pots of like jambalaya and soups and whatever. And I asked one of the ladies, I don't work for the company anymore, so I don't care. They would fire me. But I asked her if they needed anything. She's like, no, we're fine. We're running a little low on water. None of the stores have it. I'm like, okay, cool. I got you. So the next day we loaded up for the day, and they had pallets of water at the show ups. And I loaded a cargo van pretty much full of pallets of water. And I told my apprentice, I said, hey, on the way to the job, we're going to stop at every person we see and ask them if they need a case of water. We're here trying to help them out by getting power on, but that doesn't mean we're not trying to make sure that they have what they need. Whether it's
That's awesome.
your job or not, it's humanity. You're not going to let somebody sit there and dehydrate because they don't have water and it's 100 degrees outside.
Yeah.
Take care of people around you.
Yeah, we did that for this last hurricane that hit us. The hurricane actually really didn't even hit us. It was the tornadoes that it brought.
Yeah.
Which,
Y'all had some pretty wild storm surge on that one, didn't you?
God, man, we had 7 tornadoes touch down in our area, which is almost unheard of around here. Yeah, you'll get like small ones, but it was crazy. So what we did was after it wrecked so many houses. We went around, asked people, "Do you need anything?" And then all the linemen, we went to them. Hey, here's donuts, here's food, here's this. Them guys are working day and night to get your power back on, and they crushed it down here. I mean, we praise the linemen down here because they do. We lose power so often, and they get it right back on. They're out there killing it.
I can promise you, man, a small little glass or whatever you call them, bottle of Gatorade and a piece of trail mix will go a long way with a line crew because it's probably the first thing they've had all day until they get back to a show up at 9 or 10 o'clock at night. They're living in a storm services trailer with 32 other guys just to try to get 8 hours, 6 hours, whatever of sleep. So just the smallest things, man. I remember a lady, gosh, where were we? Somewhere outside Louisiana. She comes up with just a whole cardboard box full of clean, dry socks. She's like, I don't know if these are your size. We're like, we don't care. We'll take them. We're in a swamp.
Yeah.
We got no dry socks. We're trying to, drop our laundry off at the little storm trailers, and hopefully they can get to it in that day. And if they can, they can. If they can't, you got nothing to wear. I mean, you're going to be wearing yesterday's clothes that are sweaty, dirty, muddy, probably still wet. And it's just do what you got to do. But it's nice to have small little comforts like that.
Yeah, we found a crew that was working down here after that hurricane and tornadoes hit us. We stumbled across one crew, jumped out. You guys need water or anything? No, we got plenty of water. So we had some donuts and stuff, hand them that. But they were from Ohio. And I was like, damn, you guys came a long way. We have a blue collar apparel company. And we had a bunch of lineman shirts that we were handing out to them guys. And it was amazing because they were so grateful for a shirt. And then they ended up reaching out to off my social media, and they're like, "Yo, we got the shirts from you guys. Do you remember us?" I was like, "Yeah, that's awesome."
Yeah,
So
I
it
mean,
was definitely awesome.
Linemen at trade are definitely sticker whores and shirt whores. Like they collect all the small stuff. So seeing that's pretty cool.
So I have a shirt for you.
Oh no.
I do, because I've been waiting for one of you guys to get on this podcast.
Right on, bro.
Because we have this design, and I love this design, but I've yet to be able to talk to one of you guys. So I have it in black and white or in color.
Oh, dude, I love it. That's awesome.
So there's the one in color, and then I have it in black and white.
Dude, those are pretty rad, man. I like that.
Right?
That's a good logo. Yeah,
Badass. And I was like,
it's
I have no one to show this to.
oh, it's funny because we sit there and we trade them like they're baseball cards for hard hats and whatnot. And it's funny. I've got a couple buddies that end up having apparel companies as well. Like, oh, what do you think about this design? What do you think about this design? It's like, if you put it on a sticker, it doesn't matter what it is. A lineman's going to want it because he wants
Yeah.
stickers for his water bottle, his hard hat, his his travel case, his storm bags. It's funny.
Yep.
We're like little kids when it comes to that.
Well, that's any blue collar, I think. For hard hats, hard hat stickers, that's it. Everybody wants it. And then
Mm-hmm.
we would get in trouble if we put stickers in the front of our hard hats. They didn't like that. I put them all over. I didn't care.
Oh,
You can't have those. Okay.
I've got 10-year-old hard hats sitting in my camper on my. It's almost like they're a trophy case, just with stickers and a couple of them have blood on them. I mean, they're talking pieces for me. They remind me of where I was at that time or what happened on that job.
Yeah, I still got
they're
mine
stories
sitting right
for
up
sure.
there.
Yeah,
I
they're
still got mine
stories
from
for
that
sure.
day. Crazy.
Man, it's funny. I just that's what blue collar people do. It's kind of an odd thing to collect, but there's a story on every one of them. Like you said, you remember that day because of looking at that hard hat.
Yeah.
You're like, yep, I know where I was.
So you said that you have a son, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Son. Now you said your son wants to be a lineman. Do you
Oh,
want your son to be a lineman?
I swear that's
I
the
ask
number
this
one
question to most people. Do you
Um,
want your son to follow in your
man,
footsteps?
you know what I do because I'm real big on legacy. Like I want him to know why he wants to do something. Oh, I want to do that because my dad did it. My grandfather, back when I was his age, my grandfather was out of town a lot. And I never understood it. And he would say he was an engineer, so he was very technical with all this stuff. So to me, I'm just like, oh, whatever, Grandpa, that's over my head. And then come to find out, after he passed, he was an electrical engineer for Westinghouse way back in the day. And then he worked with a company called Destech in Houston pretty much my entire childhood. And I didn't know that he designed power plants and he built power plants. And he
Damn.
had his hand in, like, I think two of the largest power plants in Belgium. And I want to say Brussels, maybe. I remember Belgium was like his claim to fame. Like, I've made it. I designed an entire power plant. So looking back, there was a moment. I was still in Houston. I'd probably been in the trade for about 10 years. I'm just looking around. There's a beautiful sunset. Like, we're working right outside of a substation, which was right outside a power plant that was shut down with decommission in Texas. And I was like, dude, that's a cool picture. So I'll take a picture. And then showed my grandmother one day. I was like, oh yeah, I took this cool picture. It made me think of, my grandfather, just because that's what he used to do. And she looks at it. And she's like, that's down there near Baytown. I was like, yeah. She goes, your grandfather helped with that just by looking at it. And I was like, no shit. Like, everything comes full circle. And I didn't grow up knowing anything about legacy because I wasn't interested in it. I was interested in racing cars and racing motocross and doing stuff I shouldn't have done. But with my son, it's funny because we can be driving around in the car and he'll look up on a pole and he'll say, hey, Dad, that's a open bank transformer set. Oh, that's a closed bank. That's for house power. That's for big power. Oh, that's a tower line. Those are insulators. So he can tell me all the small stuff about it, and he retains everything I show him. So it's kind of cool watching him grow up, knowing that that's what he wants to do at 9 years old, which it'll change. He'll want to play football or be a fireman or weave underwater baskets. I don't know what he's going to want to do, Yeah, no, it definitely, his interests are perked in it because he knows that's what I do. And I kind of instill that every time that I come back for another one of our trips. I'll tell him, Daddy's out there working to make a living, to make sure that you got everything you need, that everybody's, taken care of, this, that, and the other. So he understands the power of having to travel for work. It's not anything that you necessarily want to do, but to get where you want to be in life, you got to pay for it. And there's nothing free. So it all comes with a cost.
That's
But he has
right.
fun during the winter times. You know, he'll fly out for a week and we'll go play in the snow, and I'll go see my crew. So he's been up in the bucket with me. Like he understands. Oh, okay, cool. So daddy goes up and does this, that, and the other, so people can have power or so whatever. And he enjoys it. He's smart. He's smart as a whip. He's very technical, which I like. It's kind of cool. He's not big on game systems and random stuff. He likes the little technical stuff. He'll build Legos.
Yeah.
He built a bucket truck out of Legos and put it to where it gets up to my lamp, to where the switch of the lamp is. He's like, yeah, that lineman can turn the power on and off your lamp now. I was like, damn,
That's
that's cool.
awesome.
Yeah, that's cool, dude. That's cool.
That's super cool.
But yeah, I mean, I don't. If he wants to be a lineman, I think that he'll have enough smarts behind him and enough real world experience just from watching me do it his entire
Yeah.
childhood to know that, hey, things do happen. You can get in the bench, and if you get in a bind, you know, you got to make sure you know how to get yourself out of a bind. That's the problem. Is people, I see it a lot, and I see it more than I want to see it. But people will go up and try to rush through a task, and they put themselves in a bind that they can't get out of, and so now they're stuck. They're like, well, I already got all the tension off of this pole, and then the pole is about to fall over. Like, you got to kind of look at the big picture before you start just going up there and doing what everybody calls cowboy shit.
Yeah.
It happens,
Yeah.
and we'll make fun of them for a little bit, and we'll let them struggle for a little bit, and then we'll go up and help them and get them out of it. And it gives you a little bit of bragging rights to go sit there and talk shit for
Yeah.
a couple of days.
Yeah.
It's all
That's
fun and
awesome,
games,
man.
but man, it's been a great career for me. I've seen a lot of places. I've done a lot of things that never in my wildest dreams I have been able to do. So
Are you planning on doing this as long as possible?
probably not. No,
No?
I wouldn't mind taking probably another 5 years in the field, enjoying it, coming home, taking taking a desk job, still in the electric industry, but
Yeah.
my body's slowed down after the wreck. I'm getting older now. Can't do it forever.
Yeah.
I'll let the young guns come in
Awesome.
and do it, and I'll figure something out.
I think that'd be a good idea. Give it a couple more years of enjoying it, and then yeah, move on to something a little less
Yeah, man,
stressful on the body.
he's to the point where he wants Dad to come home anyway. So I told him it's coming.
Yeah.
It might be another year or two, but it's coming. I think it'll be
Well,
cool.
Kevin, it was awesome talking with you on here today, man.
Hey, man, I had a blast.
A lot of knowledge. It's great to learn a lot in your trade and everything. All your opinions, man. You said some really good stuff today that I hope that helps other people, helps the younger generation. Do you have
Man,
any
I think
advice,
that's
man?
I think that's what it's all about. That's where podcasts have become so informational. People like watching them just to hear stuff, just to
Yeah.
hear different sides. But at the end of the day, you got to take something from it. That's the one thing that I probably will never stop nailing home is the situational awareness and to know where you're at, know what you're doing. You got to watch out for your buddies. You know, you got to be your brother's keeper. You got to have everybody's back because if they're going to get in a bind and you're in a bucket with them, guess what? You're in it with them. So you see him starting to reach for something he shouldn't reach for, knock his hand out of the way, tell him, hey, man, let's talk about it first, or let's figure out why we're about to do this. Just really keep your head on a swivel and make sure you know what's going on before you go up and do some stuff. And that's all across the trades. It's not just as a lineman. It's not just as an oil field guy. You know, you watch everybody just try to go out and do wild stuff. Know what you're doing. It might look wild. Like, I know my stuff looks wild, but our stuff is very tamed and very thought out. And there's a thought process and there's a work
Yeah.
process for every step I do. There's a work process.
Yeah,
And
you
it's funny
have to.
because that's kind of been the great thing and the bad thing about TikTok is you get to see a 30-second snippet of a 4-hour job, and that 30-second snippet looks wild, but it's thought out. I promise that we have definitely talked about what we're doing before we do it, and as soon as we go out there and start executing the plan, to us it's clockwork. It looks
Yeah.
cool, but it's clockwork.
You couldn't have put it any better, man. That's 100% on that. I like the way you said it.
For sure.
But it was awesome having you on.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man.
you being on here.
Yes, sir.
We're definitely gonna keep in touch.
Yeah. Catch up with me, man. I'm always out here doing some random stuff.
That's all right, man. You take it easy and don't spend too much time in that airport today.
All right, bud. I appreciate you having me, man.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Bye.